Good morning, Flagler County. I'm Rich Carroll. You're listening to Flagler's Morning News on Thursday, March 10th, and this local news is a service of Flagler County's Toyota dealer, Beaver Toyota, here to wow you. Flagler County Fire Rescue is called in to make a dramatic save.
The Flagler County Fire Rescue Technical Rescue Team responded Tuesday night to a fall at the Hammock Water Tower. A cell tower contractor was at the top of the tower when he accidentally plunged quite a distance. Flagler County Fire Chief Michael Tucker.
We got a call for a worker inside the tower that fell approximately 120 feet. So our crews got on site and determined that the patient did in fact fall 120 feet and had multiple injuries.
Chief Tucker says the rescue operation ran smoothly with clear communication among the crews. The patient was transported to Halifax Health in Daytona Beach as a trauma alert. His current condition is unknown.
We do not have an update on his condition, but things were looking relatively well, when we transported him to the hospital last night.
For Flagler's Morning News, I'm Karen Johnson.
4 boaters, including 2 in their 80s, are rescued from Pellicer Creek.
Flagler County Fire Flight Chief Pilot and Mechanic Todd Whaley had just returned from another call on Monday when they were notified about the boaters in distress.
We were able to locate the distressed vessel. They were hard aground on an oyster bed, at which point we started trying to figure out a way to get them evacuated. The water was too shallow for the Fish and Wildlife boat to be able to get access to them. I think the boat rental employee, who I must credit, because without him we would have not been able to accomplish what we were able to do.
An incoming thunderstorm meant time wasn't on their side.
Due to the rapidly diminishing conditions and the inability to determine how the occupants would fare in those elements, we elected to go ahead and evacuate them to a more secured location where they could get first aid administered if necessary.
Whaley says he and his team have trained for dealing with conditions like thunderstorms.
So it comes with experience and confidence in your equipment and your crew. We were able to be effective and do a good job for them.
The 4 boaters are expected to be okay. For Flagler's Morning News, I'm Rich Petchke.
While 64% of Palm Coast residents think economically their city is doing better, attributing a more crowded downtown and increased employment opportunities to that notion, they don't approve of city government. Just 35% of respondents called Palm Coast a good or excellent place to work, but that's up 19% since 2015, though it remains far lower than the national benchmark. Councilman Nick Kloufis found a bright spot. Nearly 500 residents completed the National Citizen Survey.
So although their overall vibe on how we're performing as a body up here may be in the negative, I think it is a positive that at least we are having a constituency that is willing to more actively participate in government. And I think overall everybody wins when more people participate.
Vice Mayor Eddie Branquinho used the survey's results to bolster a controversial moratorium on new multifamily developments he plans to introduce next week.
People don't think we're doing a good job. And by the amount of complaints that I've been getting lately, trust me, they're not wrong, and it has nothing to do with Parks and Rec. It has to do with the way we're growing. The growth, it's so fast that people are actually complaining to me almost on a daily basis.
Mayor David Alfin says the results of the survey will be incorporated into the city's strategic planning.
This survey will lead into our strategic action planning process, the individual interviews, which ultimately will define the budget for the coming year.
Less than half of respondents rated cost of living in the city as either good or excellent, though 60% gave a positive ranking to the quality of businesses and services the city offers.
It basically, when people hear workforce housing or affordable housing, they're thinking crime and issues like that. Well, our focus is people who can afford at the jobs they have for the housing. And it's policemen, firemen, nurses, first responders, teachers.
Flagler County Commission Chair Joe Mullins is reacting to Palm Coast Vice Mayor Eddie Branquinho's proposed moratorium on multifamily developments east of US 1.
I would encourage Branquinho to go back to when he was a police officer and working and thinking about how he was needing to make that dollar stretch as far as it can and work. And he was out there doing that public service like we have so many great people doing, teachers, firemen, first responders. They're out risking their lives for us. We need to be conscientious that they make $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year, and they just can't afford to live on that.
Branquinho says the legislation is in response to repeated calls that the city is growing too fast. Mullins tells WNZF he gets those calls too.
A handful of people, we're put here to solve problems, not to be dictated by a handful of people. These same people that are complaining will be the ones to complain when we have to cut back services or people can't get to them because they can't afford to live in the area.
And of Councilman Branchino?
I hear him saying, I got a home, tough. Y'all need to figure yours out like I did mine. I got a pension and I'm able to live on it. Y'all need to figure it out. He basically has turned his back on his fellow officers.
Branchino has said he may introduce the moratorium as early as next week. What is housing stability?
Housing stability is critical to the success and the health of a community.
Sandra Shank, who is the chair of the Flagler Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, says that while we've talked about rental housing this week, there is help for those buying their homes.
Flagler County is also able to provide mortgage assistance for people who are facing foreclosure. Housing stability is so very important, and we want people to access these resources.
Shank said that exhausting resources that go toward housing is not a bad thing. She said that it means going back to Tallahassee and asking for more funding to keep people in their homes. Lifeline is on WNZF on Saturday mornings at 9 and anytime on the Flagler radio app. Tomorrow, Sandra Shank talks about how much we should be spending on housing. From the WNZF newsroom, I'm Deb Albertson.
And now you're up to date on Flagler's Morning News. I'm Rich Carroll.